Deep within the world of art, it is well known that a picture is worth 1,000 words. 1,000 words can write a story. The English language provides enough descriptive words to enhance a reader's experience through intense detail and imagery, but what if you had 1,000 words and a picture, a guideline to the story at hand? And what a better story to piece together with words than that of the origin of Kentucky basketball, the glue that has tied together the state of Kentucky for the past 100 years. Through thick and thin, the hope of a state, a city, a county can be heavily influenced by the season put together by a local basketball team. The two main teams within the great Commonwealth are the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville. And the three linguistic pictures that are about to be painted have to deal with why basketball is in particular to Kentucky, has held highly influential people within the sport, and why the rivalry between the two colleges has any importance. This picture does not have brushstrokes. It doesn't focus on religion or 15th century French realism. Really, it's barely even a picture and more or less a collective image of data. It's probably more relative to a graph or a Venn diagram. So why would I choose to discuss why basketball is important in the state of Kentucky? This image is a screenshot from a show on ESPN. Sports Nation is known for its witty sports humor and its several collective polls on relative topics. This poll was taken on one of the first days of the 2011 college basketball season. That day, and a few hours before it, was known for 26 hours of non-stop college basketball. This poll shows that the North generally is going to watch more basketball than southern states were, as there are more green northern states than southern. However, and it's ironic that the color happened to be blue, the lone state of Kentucky is the only state that had enough people designate that they would watch as much college basketball as possible during that 26-hour span. When looking at the three main states with the most college basketball wins, you look at North Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas. North Carolina and Kansas fell under the a little category. So why is Kentucky that much more interested in college basketball than others? In the South, football is what most states are best known for. Most sports enthusiasts know that the SEC is the toughest college football conference and that Texas has the most aggressive and serious high school football programs in the country. As well, over the past decade or so, the SEC, or Southeastern Conference, has led the nation in national titles, nearly winning it every year, and currently have the top two BCS teams in the nation, Alabama and LSU. However, UK has held the two longest losing streaks in the history of college football to two SEC football teams. Florida, which is approaching a 24-year win streak against us, and Tennessee, which just ended its 26-year win streak. As well, Louisville has never won an NCAA national championship in football, and despite occasional success, has never been that great. Combined, the two teams have 0 championships, even though UK should have been named national champions in 1950. So why doesn't Kentucky follow suit and focus on becoming a rough and tough football state? During the Civil War, Kentucky was known as a northern or a Union state. However, Kentucky fell on the borderline for many political issues, just as it does geographically. Kentucky is considered southern by the majority of the country, yet many refuse to say it's a true southern state. The same is obvious even today. Kentucky is a prosperous agricultural state with its high sales in tobacco, but is also home to major factories like Toyota and Lexmark. As well, its population is also borderline. Many of its inhabitants lead a southern lifestyle, religiously based, growing up on family values that are common with those in the South, but many are also living more modern and northern lifestyles. On a side note, the city of Lexington is one of the most gay-friendly cities in the country, and based on religious views in the South as well as political tendencies, this seems to point to a northern city. However, it's located in Kentucky. Although basketball isn't a northern thing or even a southern thing, Kentucky has adopted it as its own. Between the two colleges, UK and U of L, have 9 combined national championships in basketball, 32 combined conference titles, and host the number 1 and number 10 attendance titles. But my point was that the South is known for football, and Kentucky seems to take the path of least resistance. Why? Kentucky and Louisville have been decent at best in football over the past 5 years. Also, Louisville, Kentucky is home to the number 2 team in the nation in high school football, Trinity. So why is it that Kentucky is known for football and not for its high school team, Trinity? Because nobody cares about one high school team. Nobody wants to follow 2 mediocre teams scratch and claw away at their chances to go to a bowl game. Which leads me to my final point. Kentucky is proud to claim basketball as its own because people around the nation want to watch the best of the best. They went an epic battle between UK and U of L. They went high scores and high-flying athletes, and because of influential people like Adolph Rupp and the betraying Rick Pitino, each team has been able to claim its spot among the best of the best. So in the simplest possible way to say it, Kentucky, as a state, chooses basketball over football every single day because of the rich history in winning. The fact that a Kentuckian can go up to someone in Texas and say, "You can go watch some high schoolers throw a pigskin around, and I'm going to go cheer on my Cats as they put on a show for the whole nation," makes basketball all the more important. To end, I'd like to reiterate a point I heard from my pastor. While referencing a story, he said, "Small towns live for the local high school game." Thinking about that quote, you can make certain ties to Kentucky and its teams. Kentucky isn't a large state. It's not one of the richest, and it's definitely not most glamorous. So it sits patiently and waits for college basketball. Our next picture has to deal with arguably the most influential man in college basketball regarding the state of Kentucky, Adolph Rupp. The dilemma at hand concerning Rupp's importance during his coaching career is the degree of his stand on racial segregation. The term racist has been thrown around to degrade his coaching accomplishments by those who are not familiar with his works. Through his 50-year career at UK, he only recruited one black player. But does this mean the man was a racist? According to dictionary.com, the term racism can be defined as follows: a belief that inherent differences among races determines individual achievement, involving the idea that one's race is superior and has the right to rule others. Discrimination, hatred, or intolerance of another race or races. The above picture is of Coach Rupp assisting in the teaching of basketball to German players, specifically a black player in the given picture. Rupp was coaching the U.S. Olympic team at the time and happened to be holding a clinic in Germany. Now, glancing at the picture, I'm unable to find a man with hatred or intolerance for another race. I only see two older men directing a helpful clinic to two willing players. Now, back to my earlier point. People point out that Rupp was only responsible for one African American player at Kentucky. However, the thought of bringing black players in an unsafe environment, like the states of Alabama or Mississippi, must not have positively influenced his decision to recruit African American players. Nonetheless, Rupp's only black player was the 7-foot center Tom Paine from Louisville, Kentucky, in which he is later regarded saying that he missed Tom Paine and his style of play after he was recruited to the NBA. And although this may have been his only black recruit at UK, he was responsible for more than just one step towards desegregation. While coaching at a small high school in Illinois, he started a black player for 3 years. This was his first coaching job, and he was already taking forward steps. This was nearly unheard of during his time as well. During one of his tours as a coach for the U.S. Olympic team, he picked an African American player to join his team. For his time, all of these acts seemed to be made with forward thinking. People like to compare him to standards we have on modern society where the slightest bit of racism is quickly exhausted, and which it rightly should be. But to compare a man born on a farm in Kansas during the early 1900s, before most major civil rights movements, to someone considered a racist nowadays is completely unfair. Most of the general population during the time of his life was, in some way or another, racist. And that is why these false accusations should never hinder the several accomplishments Rupp achieved at UK. A 4-time NCAA title winner, becoming the winningest coach in the history of the sport, as well as transforming Kentucky into a basketball powerhouse, officially declares him as one of the most influential people out there. But Coach Rupp hasn't been the only significant person Kentucky has been blessed with. S.T. Roach also played a major role in the desegregation of basketball. Roach coached at the all-black high school of Paul Lawrence Dunbar, here within our great city of Lexington. Roach led his Bearcats to win several Negro League championships, as well as fighting for equality within the sport. Even though Brown v. Board of Education had already been fought and solved within the Supreme Court, segregation was still rampant throughout the country. Roach eventually led his all-black Bearcats to mix and play with other white schools, all the while beating Lexington's infamous powerhouse Lafayette. Past iconic coach Ralph Carlisle, after beating the Bearcats for the first time in the district tournament, went 0-11 against Dunbar. In Billy Reed's 2010 article about former coach Roach, he speaks highly of this successful coach, bragging about the amount of respect he showed, how professional he stayed throughout, and the accomplishments he achieved with his team at Dunbar. But how do these two gentlemen represent this picture? The border between black and white has burdened this country for several years, and through the discipline, hard work, and sacrifice of many, it has been nearly abolished. But due to the influential people such as Adolph Rupp and S.T. Roach, the sport of basketball has shown its own steps toward equality. The picture above does not discriminate. It shows no hate, only the learning process being taught by a man who loved the game more than he cared about race. Rupp loved the game so much that every year he held an instructional clinic and tournament at K-State, which is a well-known black college here within Kentucky. All of these traits show just how iconic these coaches were and how honored the state of Kentucky should be to have acquired them. The jobs and strides done by these two alone calls for honorable recognition. So take a look at the picture at hand and try to fit the qualities of a racist into the figure noted as Rupp. Now try to fit the qualities of a forward-thinking man with an unmatched love for the game. Which one fits better? The picture I've chosen for this topic is pretty obvious. It's during the middle of a UK U of L game where a Kentucky player is driving the ball into the lane, attempting to score. The setting is at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. Simple enough, right? But look deeper into this picture. Look at some of the fans in the blurry background. All eyes are directed towards the game, the middle of the action, not staring into oblivious or into the face of a neighbor discussing what happened around town that week. And to get really deep into the mental aspect of this rivalry, and looking deep into this picture, look at the colors of the jerseys. Nearly exact opposites of each other. Louisville's deep crimson red to Kentucky's bright royal blue. Kentucky's pure and clean white background to Louisville's dark and mischievous black border. Each team is in a different conference, so different patches are displayed on their uniforms. Louisville's in the northern dominant Big East Conference, and Kentucky in a pure southern comfort of the SEC. As well, each team is represented and is affiliated by separate brands. To begin my topic of rivalry between the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville, I decided to look up the definition of the word. I have tons of facts to pull from, history of big games, stats, former coaches and players, quotes, anything really. But to really understand what pulls a state in two, you have to understand exactly what is happening at the root of the rivalry. The medical definition is as follows: a competitive or antagonistic state or condition. And to further the definition, the meaning of an antagonistic state is acting in opposition, opposing, especially mutually, hostile or unfriendly. As a true-born Kentucky fan, this rivalry really hits home to me. And hearing all of these words just paints a picture of its own. A mutual unfriendly relationship is the best way to describe the rivalry between the brother schools. Kentucky, of course, being the older brother with a longer and richer history, and Louisville being the little brother, always trying to catch up to UK. But this rivalry doesn't destroy the state. It only creates a divided line in between Lexington and Louisville. The state becomes better through the friendly competition of sports. The Kentucky state motto is, "United we stand, divided we fall." And I could not think of a better way to state the rivalry with that set of words. If this rivalry were to ever harbor true hatred for another Kentuckian, then the rivalry has been lost. At the end of each team's game, my old Kentucky home is played. Even after a hard-fought battle, fans from both teams in C lock arms and sway back and forth to their state song. My point is that the rivalry, no matter how dark and dirty it may seem, creates a productive outlook in Kentucky. In a personal interview with a Louisville fan I happen to be friends with, we discussed some of the finer topics of the rivalry. Some of the questions I asked him dealt with how long he'd been a U of L fan, if he loved wearing Louisville stuff on campus here at UK, and if being a fan of Louisville made him want to do better as a person in order to say he was a positive aspect of the team and their following. All of his answers were right on track with my hypothesis. I expected his answers to be the exact same as mine, but directed the other way. He and I were basically born into a fan base, and we wouldn't have it any other way. He enjoyed flaunting his Louisville attire around our campus, and my rebuttal was I would do the exact same thing on theirs. And most importantly, he answered that he wanted to be a better person and wanted to do the best he could because he felt as though he was being a representative of Louisville while living here in Lexington, which is the main point of this section. The rivalry makes Kentucky a better place. Each and every fan wants to be a helpful ambassador for his or her team, and that is why basketball in Kentucky has created a niche deep within the state. It has a spot in the lives of almost every Kentuckian and will continue to brighten the days of fans not only worldwide but across the nation.